mention from IRC, both runners just said, I bet I'll leave some chest again, and it'll be the one I need. Well, that sounds familiar. Oh, and we are off. The first chest we end up having is a bomb upgrade. Surely the most resident sleeper of upgrades.
Yeah, Mikan getting up to a bit of a head start here. A pause will sort that out. They'll get the streams synced up time-wise here in just a moment. Early bomb pickup off the enemy. That's always a good sign.
That's definitely convenient, especially when it comes down to the option of, say, having bombs for Kakariko. It just means you have one less bomb to worry about, and depending on where you use it, you may still pick up more. Speaking of picking up more, we're about to see... Nope, we are not seeing a tree pill, but we are going to see what the uncle has in the hallway. And this time around, what does the uncle have for us but a little bit of love? Well, nothing bad from that.
Yeah, he looked a little bit down on his luck, maybe his own health dwindling, and he gives you a little bit. That's a really gracious uncle right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, we got a very uncommon but nonetheless cherished green rupee chest. That's gotta sting a little. Oh, and in Sanctuary, we got a big 20. Well, the map is somewhere in the escape sequence. Whether it's in the front or the back, we will not know.
Yeah, if you're keeping track at home, that's 1 down, 27 red rupees left to go. They're lousy here in Hyrule.
Yeah, they are. In the meantime, Chrouya is actually off to go and get another excellent bomb. Oh wait, no, that was Mikan the first time. Well, now we're finding out that Chrouya ends up picking up a bomb as well, setting up for a tree pull, and setting up for a tier 2 tree pull only to get some hearts. A little disappointing nonetheless, but at least it could have been worse.
Yeah, the trees are showering our runners with love early on.
And the crab is just hooking up the bomb supply.
Yeah, nice crab there.
Definitely. Meanwhile, Mikan, after going and farming the south of Kakariko, is going to check out the race. And right off the bat... Oh, Chrouya apparently... Oh, there he goes. And that looked like it was a big 20 at the race. And 3 bombs at the Lumberjack Cave. We cannot confirm whether or not AGA 1 will be required.
Yeah, as valuable as bombs are in the early game, those are a set of bombs I doubt they're going to be going back for.
Oh, absolutely. Meanwhile, over in the Lost Woods, we're getting another crab pull for some more bombs, making that just one easy method to acquire them and not have to worry in the future. Oh, getting 5 out of that crab. Very, very generous.
Yeah,
the back of the bar. Oh, and the mirror in Lost Woods.
The mirror. Wow, it's a big item to find early on. Of course, we have no idea if Swamp is required at this point. But in fact, we don't know what dungeons are required at this point. We haven't had a map check yet, which is a bit unusual.
A bit, but nonetheless, we have... Oh, that's an interesting sign. We have the mirror and the cape in an early Link to the Past. We have the cape, of course, in the chicken house. We did not get a chicken clip, though. Also, 300 in the bottom of the Thieves' Den in the Lost Forest, making it a lot easier to tackle that bottle vendor. Wow, the flute already. That in itself...
A couple of really nice items so far as Mikan pulls a bee in a bottle out of the bombable wall in the well, but no weapons so far, so it's always interesting if you have a seed where runners are scrambling to get any kind of weapon they can get their hands on. Right now, bombs are all they've got.
That is true. We are very much going on swordless. Oh, never mind. I was about to say we're about to be going on swordless strats.
Right
Lo
on
and behold.
Yeah, just in the nick of time for Mikan.
Absolutely. And now that we're having a swag duck sighting, there we are. It seems like we're gonna end up getting the sound of the swag duck anthem very, very shortly. And confirmed first sword. And since there is a bottle, we're going to see what the Sick Kid has for us today. And, oh, it's a big 20. Looks like we're not getting out of this that easily.
Yeah, down to 26 of those red rupees throughout Hyrule, and that's not including the ones you might pick up off of enemies. And I want to apologize. I overlooked the utility of the bee. A grievous error on my part, and I really think it would have been interesting had they not got the sword to make it all the way to the southern part of Hyrule, going to Mini Moldorm Cave, unleashing that bee on the Mini Moldorms.
Oh, that would have been fantastic. And it looks like we're getting a swag duck. I don't really know the anthem, so I can't really sing it, but I can at least say things onto the beat.
Yeah,
Except it's not on a syllable
on this
scheme.
one.
Sounds like a plan to me. I'll just shut up.
Not for too long, I hope.
No, fortunately that was the extent of my shutting up, much to the chagrin of anyone wanting to actually hear that anthem. Now that we got that out of the way, we're going to see the inverse of what each player did. We're going to see more Lost Woods check from Mikan and more Kakariko check from Chrouya.
Yeah, so Chrouya going to make his way south, going to find a whole lot of nothing worthwhile down by the race game, whereas Mikan's going to find something pretty nice picking up that mirror.
Right you are. Now, at this point, it is getting a little suspicious to look like this is going to become an early Aghanim seed. That said, it's also way too early to predict that this might just be a wild goose chase.
Yeah, they would still need the lamp for the logic to ask that of them.
Very true. That said, we now still have the dam, the Mini Moldorm Cave, the Ice Rod Cave, as well as Sarasrala, or Sarhasrala. Oh, and with that flute, we are immediately seeing a dam play. And we get a heart container, and soon Mikan is going to ruin the ecosystem for a couple of fish. Quite inconsiderate, might I add. But nonetheless, it may pull to be rewarding. Let's find out if greed overplays the risk, and oh my goodness, it is the lamp.
Wow, these items that are coming down in quick succession now are beginning to feel more and more like an Aghanim seed. Clearly, there's still lots to explore here as the runners are just getting started, but you see the cape, you see the lantern, and you just start to get that sinking feeling, although, of course, it's not a huge deal, but you do get that feeling.
Absolutely. For the most part, it's a couple of minutes of a time sink, as well as some slight overworld changes, and that doesn't really feel like a whole lot. But in the event that you're led astray, and your opponent happens to find a way to not have to fight Aga 1, you are now slightly worried that you are super behind.
So a little bit of sync here from the runners. And disappointing, no B-strats and silver arrows in the last chest of Mini Moldorm Cave, picked up by Mikan and Chrouya taking the fall, but should be able to handle this last Moldorm without too much trouble.
Fortunately, you are correct. Although it does appear we ended up also getting Sankheart. Yes, we did.
Very timely.
And now off to the Ice Rod Cave for Mikan. Now, question is Chrouya also going to follow up, and where will they be going from there? Are we going to see an Eastern play? It appears so, actually. Nope, it's back to Kakariko. Oh, by accident, apparently. And a heart container over in the Ice Rod Cave. Oh, and immediately we are now going to go rescue Old Man Logic Skip.
Yeah, this is in line with the logic. Unfortunately, without the lift upgrade, won't be able to get quite up to Hera. Won't be able to access that Dark World portal.
And as we know, if you're skipping over certain progression in the logic, sometimes you can get items that will lead you astray. That definitely happened to us several times, especially in the last race, both you and I commentated, where they had the fire rod, and then they grabbed the book after going and skipping over the logic to Zora, and then thinking to themselves, oh, we should go into desert instead, adding easily another 20 minutes total to their run.
The use of that lamp, though, means the old man check was in line with the logic. The real trouble here is that there's not much else to do unless they happen to walk into Spectacle Rock here and discover that they can get the power gloves.
That would be super convenient if it's on there, or even inside Spectacle Rock. And it appears... oh, whole lot of nothing. I mean, it's a little bit of love, granted, but at the same time, not really what you're looking for at this point in the game.
And I was mistaken. I thought that you had to have the power gloves to lift up there, but that is not the case. Good thing Chrouya is a much better player at this game than I. We got our first map check, and it's in the Dark World.
And we have we have Skull Woods as the red pendant and Ice Palace as the blue pendant. Will that come into play? We have no idea just yet, but that means one of these pendants is in the Light World.
And right now we've got some pretty delightful sync going on between the runners, both immediately latching onto that big key. And for the time being, they're going to put off the basement, hoping that the two items in this palace are in front of them as they make their way up to Moldorm.
We're seeing very, very relatively smooth. Oh, that was a close near fall by Mikan. We're getting otherwise pretty clear strats so far in Tower of Hera. Let's find out what the rest of the items are going to be and if we're going to need to go into the basement.
Yeah, Mikan taking a little extra time to pick up some magic there. As we see a small key, and Chrouya gonna have to take the long route, or opting to at least, not going with a bomb jump there. Dropping in on the big chest, and it holds. Ooh, just the map. So that means that there is an item in the basement, and Moldorm is ahead for Chrouya. Spin strats on Moldorm for Chrouya as Mikan enters the room. Again, pretty good sync going on early on in this race between Mikan and Chrouya. Interestingly, Mikan with a record of 2 and 3. One of those wins was actually by default because of a few runners dropping out in the tournament. A fall by Chrouya, ooh, and all the way down. That's going to cost him quite a bit of time. Mikan also getting bonked off in similar fashion. However, he only went down 1 floor. Moldorm does it again to our runners. So Chrouya, obviously with a record 1 and 4, Mikan 2 and 3. Mikan had a bye 1 week, and in fairness, they decided to award him a victory, and he does have an opportunity to advance to the playoff going on this Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Speed Gaming. It'll be a pretty interesting show. Not quite sure how they're going to break that all down, all 36 or 32 runners, somewhere in that neighborhood. As we're now on the second try of Moldorm, Mikan takes care of it. Chrouya nearly at the same time able to take care of Moldorm as well, and they are rewarded with Quake and a crystal. And they're going to go back in and check the basement item. So it'll be a good time for our runners to take a coffee break or whatever sort of beverage they choose to imbibe. That is, if they choose to catch the iframes on the tile, but actually without a projectile weapon, that's not going to be a possibility, so they're going to have to bob and weave. Chrouya going with the more aggressive tactic. And this is what you came for. And after the interminable wait of the tile room, we now are going to get a chance to see what's hidden in the basement of Hera. And, ooh, they're not that bad. They're not that bad. That's a pretty good item to pick up. So the Power Glove for Mikan and Chrouya, that's a lift upgrade. That's going to give them greater access in a series of areas, including Zora, without having to utilize the fake flippers. So it would not be a sequence break. That could be a reasonable play at this time. But instead, there are a bevy of chests for Mikan and Chrouya to go check out elsewhere. Mikan opting for the front of escape down in the dungeon of Hyrule Castle. Whereas Chrouya, he's opting for the back of escape. There are 3 chests back here. And then there's one a little bit deeper in the sewer, depending on whether or not he picks up a key. Chrouya, 3 chests here, does get a key, and the Moon Pearl. That's a nice item to get and not have to search for and exhaust every overworld location that you can in the Light World. So that's a nice thing to have. And having picked up that key, Chrouya will venture deeper, going into the sewers for a single chest. And my attention was diverted a bit from Mikan picking up that first chest. We'll get another shot at an item here. Nice execution, getting the single spin attack to kill the guard. Picks up a map, and Chrouya heads on out of the back half of escape. Picking up the Bombos medallion. That will not immediately grant him access to Ice Palace, but if the Fire Rod decides to hang out in the breeze a little bit, that will be an option. One more chest remaining here in the front half of escape for Mikan. And then Chrouya making the play to Sahasrahla and Eastern Palace. And another red rupee. I think that's our 3rd discovered in a chest in the game. Mikan going to go with a very conventional, straightforward escape here. And Sahasrahla's hut will yield 3 items for Chrouya. Hard container, blue rope, and a shovel.
And we, at that point, now have the first fetch quest underway. Whether or not Chrouya will go for it is another question.
Yeah, the shovel is actually kind of a confounding item. You don't want to forget about it because, importantly, when they pull up their pause menu, it occupies the same spot as the flute, and you actually have to switch over from the flute to the shovel, so you may forget about it because it's not there in front of you in your inventory.
It is also very much difficult to remember that when you're in such a rush. And in some cases, when you feel like you're behind and you're essentially trying to get it done as fast as possible, not immediately switching over with Y will become a factor.
So now Mikan finishing off escape here. Going to pick up 3 items here, and importantly, the Moon Pearl, this last item after getting this key.
And at this point, they are 1 glove and a flipper or a hammer away from being able to get pretty much anywhere in the Dark World. So technically, you can say, even though it's less likely, the Aga 1 dream is still there.
Yeah, still there. Flippers would take care of it. Hammer would certainly take care of it.
Absolutely. And will that happen? We'll have to find out. Oop, Mikan setting up for the fake flipper, not getting it in time. Oop, trying to go back over and deciding... Oh, wait, no. Wanted to kill the crab first so it didn't come in and take away 2 hearts, because that is very frustrating. And getting it the second time around.
Yeah, this is our first sequence break, I believe, and it's a pretty common one. It's just a trip up to the hobo, and then perhaps, because he does have the Moon Pearl, he can actually do the water walk glitch and sneak into the waterfall fairy's domain and get those chests back there.
True.
Chrouya continuing his venture through Eastern Palace, picking up a 5-arrow upgrade. Nothing too significant there. Onto the big chest, and...
It's the actual flippers!
What are those? They're not the boots, but they do go on his feet.
Fortunately enough, that does mean it will save Chrouya from having to either fake flipper back away from the hobo or find something useful on Zora's ledge and then be able to grab it.
Didn't see the item on Hylia there.
Nah, neither did I, unfortunately.
Well, it'll be a pleasant surprise down the road then, potentially, as Mikan again gonna go ahead and sequence break. Go ahead and get into these 2 chests upon re-entering here. Chrouya taking a little damage for the anti-fairy swarm there.
Only for
rewarded.
a big 20.
Yeah, I said rewarded, but it's not much compensation.
Very true. Speaking of big 20s, that was one of the 2 items Mikan grabbed along with the bloomerang. In the meantime, Chrouya apparently going in fake flippering or normal flippering. And did you see what was on Zora's ledge? Because I did not get a good glance.
I was looking at Chrouya's screen, unfortunately.
It's okay, I looked away just in the nick of time to miss what was on the ledge. According to chat, it was 10 arrows. Well, that does mean the gamble on that is off. And what does Zora have? Oh, an arrow upgrade. Man, that is like a high-end shop, but with garbage items.
Yeah, that's not a great deal. I think suffice it to say, it's not a good deal.
Certainly not. So at this point, there's really not a whole left they can grab. They can go up to the desert ledge and check Agena. And that's literally all I can recall them having left to be able to touch. So I don't think they have anything else.
Yeah, I'm trying to rack my brain here. There's nothing to do in the north of Hyrule at this time, because they don't have the boots, so they can't exactly do bonk rocks or anything like that.
And here we go, the moment of truth. Mikan goes to Mikan Cave, and it's a big 20 Aghanim. Or Aghanim. Oh, wow, well, wait, both names being mixed up twice. Aghanim now confirmed a plausibility.
Yeah, I think this, outside of the shovel, which Chrouya's holding on to, this might be for sure a trip to Aga. I sound really confident with the language like this might be for sure. But I'm still trying to speculate here, as Mikan, obviously not having yet checked Eastern, is going to go see what's there. Going to be a little perturbed when he sees that the flippers were there all along. Not that it really cost him any time or anything.
True.
But yeah, that shovel is interesting right now.
At this point, the shovel is the last of the bastion of preventing to go and just fight Aga 1. Now, will we see a save for Chivalry, or will we end up having to go and fight Aga 1?
Chrouya may give us our answer here. And he's not even going to try the shovel. And see, this is my fears that, it's hard to say. I'm not inside Chrouya's head, but it's possible that because he doesn't see it in his pause menu anymore, because the flute's covering it up, that it may have slipped his mind.
That is possible.
Unless, as chat points out, he has yet to do the front of escape, and that is Probably, yeah. I'm not convinced that Chrouya would have forgotten about the shovel so soon.
That is a relief. Wouldn't Aga without Master Sword be a logic break? However, in a vanilla game, yes. However, you can also get through there with the cape, which the logic does account for. So with the cape, you are technically not logic breaking.
And so at this time, we're not going to have any questions about whether or not Aghanim is going to be required. Those questions are going to be answered, I should say, here in the next couple of minutes. It's going to take a little bit for Mikan to work his way through Eastern Palace, and it's going to take a little bit for Chrouya to work his way through the front half of Escape. So we just kind of have to hold out hope that I was wrong and that Chrouya does remember that the shovel is an option.
That would be very, very convenient, especially if it ends up having something of worth. He may still gamble on saying the shovel won't have anything and go to Aga. Whether that is the play or not, we are not sure. In fact, we're about to find out after he opens up the chest in Zelda's dungeon. We're going to see, soon as that mirror happens, what the next play is going to be. Will he make the gamble for Shovelry, or will he immediately skip up and do Aga? And we have our answer.
Interesting. So, it's possible that Chrouya didn't forget about the shovel and is just hedging his bets on Aga. Hard to say. It's all speculation at this point, but it'll be up to Mikan to remember that he got the shovel. Should be pretty fresh in his mind as he picks up the flips there. It'll be interesting to see what his decision is as well.
Absolutely. If they both follow suit, there will not be a significant time loss. However, if something of importance is at the shovel spot, this can take the slight lead Chrouya might have and completely flip it around on Mikan.
Ooh, and this Aga, the castle part of Aga here, is a difficult proposition when you don't have a powerful sword. Some of these rooms can be pretty tough. He does have Bombos, and I'm not sure about the effectiveness of Bombos on some of these enemies.
Most of them, pretty well. To be fair, would it be worth the constant drain of MP? We do not know.
So here's the play. Mikan with an opportunity here to really maybe take a lead and get an important item that Chrouya just may have either decided against or potentially forgot about.
Well, and we're seeing a flute to 2. Just kidding, we're seeing a flute somewhere else to 4.
And
For
digging we
Shovelry.
go. Wow, okay, this is exciting. We'll see what Mikan digs up. Very unofficial guessing game, but chat, feel free to speculate on what progression item could be here in the grove underneath the digging spot.
There's something to be said about checking all of your options beforehand, but there's also something to be said about making an educated play. Oh! And with that, Chrouya still in a significant lead. And Aga 1 confirmed required.
Yeah, we'll have to bookmark this in our memories and ask Chrouya in the post-race interview if that was an intentional play to forego the shovel, because if so, it was a bit of a gamble, but it obviously paid off. He's actually gained a little bit of time on Mikan. Checking the dig spot didn't take a whole lot of time, but he's able to extend his lead quite a bit. Now utilizing the Bombos down to a single heart. Things getting a little bit dicey here. He's going to kind of farm some hearts.
Fortunately, being able to do so in both of those pots, saving Bombos specifically for some of the more troublesome spots when you have only a fighter sword.
So a question in chat, what was it, Lumberjacks? And it was nothing of
3
significance.
bombs.
Yeah, just 3 bombs. So that did not clue us in as to whether or not Aghanim was required. Now they simply have to do Aghanim because they have no access to the Dark World outside of the portal on Death Mountain, which it's pretty limited in what it can take them to. So they're gonna rely on something being on the pyramid, at Catfish, in the early parts of Pod possibly, but not many places after that even.
You are correct. Meanwhile, we're getting the cutscene to show that Aghanim sure is obnoxious. And
Alright.
It's time to play everyone's favorite guessing game about the light world. How many balls is Aghanim gonna throw at you before you finally take him down? No one actually has ever played that game. They usually go with how many cycles you're gonna have to deal with. But we'll just pretend I got that right in the first place.
Now, interestingly, as we wait for Chrouya to eliminate Aghanim, hopefully as he takes damage there from one of the blue balls. But with the flippers, do they have more access to the Dark World than they otherwise would? For instance, can they go to the swamp area and check Hype Cave?
Yes, they actually could. They could literally go and do that, so long as they were to go into the water. The flippers, despite being a bit of a roundabout way of doing it, you are able to go and access both sides of the Dark World. Most people usually just neglect that fact because it's a lot of a time loss in comparison to finding the hammer. But if the hammer ends up being in a super troll location, then it's safe to say that using the flippers and utilizing them appropriately will do you a great justice in comparison to being on a wild goose chase.
Well, that is good analysis and interesting to know that their progression item might not be in the more obvious locations. Aghanim is down for Chrouya. Mikan, meanwhile, in the previous room, struggled a little bit with the single guard. Lost a couple of hearts there, and not making use of his bombos here. Does have plenty of pots to throw at these two enemies, and we get a check on the pyramid, just a heart. So Chrouya going to continue looking for that progression item. Likely the hammer, the mitts, possibly the hook shot.
Wait a second. I'm actually going to think about this for a second. I'm not sure if there's a way to get directly to the east side, or to the west side, from this current location. Because I keep thinking that the Ice Rod Cave has a place that you can also go up from the water. However, that may just be in the light world. So they may be literally confined to Palace of Darkness, Catfish, and with the mirror, also Lake Hylia Cave.
Interesting. So Chrouya making the play on Pod, foregoing Catfish.
I mean, reasonably, it's one item versus about, 6 chests in here? 5 chests? So playing the numbers game is not necessarily a bad justification. However, without the hammer and the bow, this is super risky. If he does not find a small key, he will essentially, there we go, that's the word, be bow and hammer locked out of the cave, or out of the dungeon. Words are hard.
And as we get a look at Mikan, he's successfully made it to Aghanim with relatively intact health, so that's obviously good for him, not having to go through the entirety of that process again. But it will take him a little while to get Aghanim down as a key picked up for Chrouya. Only 2 more chests he can check that could potentially have the progression item the game is perhaps asking him to pick up.
In all technicality, depending on the situation, he may actually have 3, although one of them will have to automatically be a key for that to be the case. Well, what do you know? And he is going automatically back? Yep, he's going back to those other 2, hoping to at least get another key and hopefully make his way to the back of this dungeon. Shoutouts to Dr. Bob-tastic for calling this the Mullet Dungeon. Because of the amount of keys that are in the front of the dungeon, he often says that it's business in the front and party in the back. And in this case, he might be getting exactly the metaphor he would hope for.
So it looks very much like Catfish has our progression item. And it could be a couple of things. It could be a hammer. It could be a bow, and he's going to take the Death Warp out of there, despite having the mirror, but he was low on health anyway. Not a bad play.
Certainly not. Especially if he actually heads out. Nope, he's going for the rest of the dungeon. Okay. Gotta admit the admiration. Because in all technicality, he could find the big key, and he could also find whatever is in the big chest, which could be literally nothing. But that does open up pretty much all but 2 chests in this dungeon. Technically 3 item places if you count King Helmasaur, however we can't account that for either the bow or the hammer by the logic.
Meanwhile, Mikan making the play on Catfish. Gotta have something, right? If he doesn't, I'm completely stumped. But Catfish
It's
has
time to find out. Are we going to get an item, or is Catfish going to catfish us?
No, it's gotta be an item.
And it's the Golden Glove! Titan's
so
Mitts
good.
at Catfish. Thank you, Catfish, for not catfishing us this time.
Yeah, every now and then Catfish has to reel you in with a little something nice. Keep you coming back.
And let's see what Palace of Darkness has for us. It's a big 20 so far. There wasn't a whole lot in the bottom.
Meanwhile, Mikan making a pretty smart play there just to drop by the witch, fill up on health, and also picking up blue goo there to refill his magic and health.
And at this point, he is heading immediately over to... I want to keep calling it Thieves Town, but it's not.
Outcasts.
Thank you.
A lot of shady customers down there in the village of Outcasts.
Reminds me of my hometown.
Gotta watch your back. Alright, so we get another look at the Dark World. Crystal 5 is Pod.
And
Ice
Crystal 6 is
Pendant.
Thieves Town.
Yeah, so Thieves Town looks like a pretty reasonable play despite not having the hammer. But Mikan instead electing to take a look into Skull Woods, which, as many will note, has a ridiculously high number of items, percentage-wise, given how few items it can have. 2 unique items in the dungeon, it seems to almost always, or very often at least, have a progression item.
Some people say 45%, and even though I'm not 100% sure on that, it does certainly feel that way. Meanwhile, Skull Woods providing you an earthy burrito while we're waiting to see what the other items are. Are we going to get a small key, or are we going to have to go the scenic route? Nope, no scenic route today.
Meanwhile, Chrouya is making a brave, albeit perhaps not wise, trek through the Dark World and taking a death. He could have saved and quit and gone to the pyramid the entire time. Instead, he takes a death there.
On the one bright side, he did death warp effectively to the top of the pyramid. Oh no, but he's warping out. He is not going back to Catfish. That is going to be a big deal.
Is he remembering the shovel?
Oh, hey, wait a second. Was that Ice Rod I just saw over on Mikan's screen?
Chat confirms that we've got an Ice Rod sighting, so that is, of course, a required item. Turtle Rock being a crystal dungeon. Always nice to get that out of the way, as it can be, almost anywhere in the entire game, with the exception of on Trinex or in Ganon's Tower. In this case.
And yet another small key means Mikan warps out and immediately heads towards somewhere, probably Thieves Town at this point. Because there's not a whole lot else that he can do going up to Mothula except attempt the Ice Rod very, very fruitlessly on the place he needed the Fire Rod.
Like perhaps Mothula, over the years, after being, defeated by so many people, has maybe begun to develop an immunity to fire, and perhaps, the Ice Rod could be a play.
I don't know. It's been thousands of years. Humans haven't really gained an immunity to fire.
So we're discovering that Chrouya had not cleared as many of the overworld locations as we may have suspected, going back and forth between watching him and Mikan. And just going to do Ice Rod Cave, now doing Agina.
As we know, that's unfortunately not going to be much more than a fruitless endeavor. However, Mikan is now taking the mirror and going and checking the cave behind the grave, as well, he doesn't have the boots, so we can't do King's Tomb.
Chrouya lost at the moment. Interestingly, does not remember that he has that shovel. Not that it would help him. It was a red herring.
Ooh, speaking of things that are red, only a big 20 in the back of the cave behind the grave.
Looks like he's back on track here, maybe making his way to Catfish. That's a little bit overdue, but there's still a lot to be done. So though he has certainly fallen behind, you know, a good play here or there could certainly get him back in the race, perhaps even ahead.
Absolutely. This is still by any means anybody's race, no matter the lead you are at in this moment. We have seen massive race upsets even at the last second, so I wouldn't count any of these or either of these racers out. That said, it is a sigh of relief that he's going up to Catfish. Sorry to cut you off. You go ahead.
Oh, not a problem. Just, adding into the, difficulties that still face, our players, including Chrouya, but Mikan as well, things that could, trip him up. Still operating with the fire sword, has bombos, but doesn't have a, weapon that he can spam like the fire rod. No hammer to speed up some bosses.
True, no hookshot to get out of stickier situations. And Chrouya going to really regret not heading to Catfish, almost by instinct, avoiding the item. I've definitely done that a handful of times.
Nearly ran away from the mitts, but on second thought, he went back for them, and now fluting away, heading immediately down to the mire area. This is interesting because Mikan did not make this play, so these are fresh areas that Chrouya is going to be checking out, and if he gets a big item here, then it could really be very helpful to him getting back in the race.
Absolutely, and speaking of potentially big items, we're now heading into Thieves Town, and the first thing we see is a big 20. Bombos confirmed for Misery Mire. And inside of the mire shed, are we going to find anything of use? Survey says, not quite yet. 300 rupees isn't that bad, but at the same time, it's not that great.
Yeah, Chrouya lining his pockets when he'd rather be lining his inventory. Probably going to go check out checkerboard. Meanwhile, Mikan, the third item, the third chest, I should say, in Thieves is the trio of bombs, and the fourth is the big key. Had to have that to move on, so he'll progress further into the dungeon. Again, just the fighter sword, which doesn't make a difference on blind. All swords do the same damage to blind, interestingly enough.
And Chrouya immediately heading out as soon as they see that there was not much of value for them to continue onward into the checkerboard cave.
Now this is interesting. Looks like Chrouya wants to stick around, get to the light world, and make a play on desert. I'm going to go check the ledge first. Don't believe he prioritized that. Going to be disappointed when he sees another dirty, rotten red rupee.
Simply the rudest of rupees, or as I've heard other people in chats call it, the Rudy. An interesting play to go into desert at this point without the boots. Now, it is entirely possible that the boots are in one of the chests. However, there's one of the items on the bonk rock that does suggest that we are not locked out of this dungeon by boots. This early play into the green pendant might be interesting, but still worthwhile.
Yeah, certainly worthwhile since he was already in the area, and of course now having to pick up a key could have been the big key, which would have led to a small key in the big key chest, but gets a small key. Gonna go check out these chests over here, sure to contain a map, a compass, something like that, but we'll see.
And there's the map. By the logic, this now has to be the big key.
Yeah.
Speaking of chests, Mikan, as he was opening up that pit, ends up getting 10 arrows for his efforts. Chrouya using the mirror smoothly to go back and use less time to go and see what's in the big chest.
Yeah, it is a good play. A small play to make, but it does save, several seconds without the boots, and nice to see that he's got his druthers about him.
Absolutely. And does Landmolest have the item? Oh, no, he does.
Will he proceed?
He is making the play to not do that.
Interesting.
What's double interesting is we had a seed that both of us commentated a little earlier where the actual item that you got from Sarashula was the initial big play.
Yeah, and they had the chance, it was in Skull Woods, and they had the chance to clear Skull Woods from the moment they entered the Dark World, and they put it off forever, and it was the hammer.
Yep. A simple sequence break up to the Zora misled both runners.
So Mikan picks up the key, cannot check out the contents of the big chest, so he'll have to instead ascend the stairs here with the maiden and take on blind here in a moment. Meanwhile, Chrouya making up some ground here as far as checking locations that Mikan has already checked.
Ooh, on top of that, Mikan has a 50-50 chance of this being a dungeon item or the actual item.
So assuming here that Mikan handles blind with ease as he has so far through the first 2 phases, now on to the final one, where do we think his next play is going to be? I see chat murmuring about Ice Palace, which interestingly they do have access to, although it is not completable yet because they do not have the hammer.
True. However, if there's a couple things that in the confirmation bias of V26 has ever told me, check Skull Woods and check Pendant Dungeons, which is why Chrouya going and checking Desert Palace to the extent that he did was still a wise call on intel, because that's just one less dungeon he has to worry about. Speaking of places he has to worry about, what about Bumper Cave?
Let's have a look.
And, nope, it's just a bomb upgrade. Nothing to worry about there.
Disappointing. That would have been nice for Chrouya, having the cape and all.
Oh, absolutely. Meanwhile, we're seeing the rest of the Village Outcast and the Bombable Hut only had a little bit of love. I missed out on C-Shape House.
Yeah, I don't recall it being anything groundbreaking, honestly. Not a whole lot of really savory items so far in the Village of Outcasts. We will get a look at the C-shaped house here.
Oh yeah, yes we will. Ooh, $50. Not exactly what you want to see. And now we're going to
give us our first look at the digging game.
And we are now seeing what Alec Baldwin has in his backyard. The reference there, for anyone not really picking up on that, is that in the movie Beetlejuice, Alec Baldwin's character ends up looking very similar to that character in-game.
Good to know.
I found that one out because I totally don't remember ever watching that movie. Nonetheless, Mikan then opting to ignore Old Stumpy and the Mirror Cave, likely to go to Jeremiah, who was a bullfrog and a very good friend of mine, immediately to go and bring him back to his house, turn him back into the breadsmith or the blacksmith. Are they hammering fire or a piece of bread? It's up to you to discover for yourself.
I mean, it really does look like a baguette, and it
really does.
It makes you wonder, like, why would you do that to a baguette? I know they're a little crispy and hard, but surely you don't need to bash it with a hammer.
And it's often delicious. Like, why would you do that to a baguette? If it's perhaps super stale and they want to make croutons, that's one thing. However, they only gave Mikan a little bit of love for his efforts. Pretty sure they put more love into making those croutons.
Well, they're expert craftsmen. They care about what they do.
That is a fair point. Meanwhile, going with the purple chest over to the... People call him Gary, but there's already an old man named Gary at the mountain, so I like to call him Billy. Going to Billy the guy in the mountain.
Interesting. I had not heard that, but I will keep that in mind.
It's been an on-running thing.
Mikan is continuing to blaze new territory here, giving us often our first look at locations, sort of Chrouya following in his wake for the moment at least, yet to make that big divergence, a play that we know he needs to make in terms of, gaining some sort of advantage. Mikan now going to continue to make the tour of South Hyrule, getting 10 arrows from Stumpy.
All in all, not something of too much value. However, at this point, Mikan has two options. He can bring the lunchbox down to the old man, or he can leave it there and head over to Hype Cave, and he opts to ignore Disappointment Cave and go straight to deliver the lunchbox. Now, what will the lunchbox hold? It's only a mystery. Probably just another big 20. Oh, it's a heart container, and Chrouya goes down. Press F to pay respects. After delivering that to the old man, we are now seeing a route over to the Cave of Wonder. Is it Hype Cave? Is it Disappointment Cave? Is it Mediocre Cave? We're gonna have to find out. Get your PogChamps ready, or your Resident Sleepers ready, or just both. Let's just throw in both. You could be excited to sleep. And into the cave we go with a very well-timed bomb. And the first thing we get is blue mail. Okay, not bad. Fisher Price, my first shield, the red tunic, a piece of heart, and 2 pieces of heart. I'm going to call that a 3 out of 5 cave.
Yeah, that's being a little bit generous. I mean, getting both mail upgrades at the same time is pretty convenient. And we'll just call it a really healthy cave. The Hospitality Cave.
I like that. Hospitality Cave works. The clothing shop, as we're seeing in chat.
And unfortunately, that death by Chrouya is going to set him back a considerable amount, exacting some revenge on the little green cricket bugs.
And meanwhile, Mikan going and checking the Meyer shed, soon to be also disappointed. I have to say, despite it being in different order, we haven't really seen that much of a divergence between both of these runners.
Right, it'll be interesting to see. Somebody in chat moments ago was asking, polling the crowd, if they would make a play into Swamp to check the first chest that isn't the small key. And I'm sure it's not a very popular option. It's certainly a gamble because it takes so much time to get into Swamp, having to mirror to the light world, drain the Swamp, get back in, and the likelihood of a progression item being there is not high. But certainly, I think a lot of people would say, if you're going to make a play like that, a dungeon you can't complete and need the hammer, why not just go into Ice Palace?
That is very true. You could do a lot more in clearing Ice Palace right now than you could go into Swamp, and through that alone, it may end up being more worth it. That said, we have seen such a trolley occasion. It is possible. However, would you really gamble on something far less likely versus something that gives you much more options?
And we should go ahead and note also, I sort of overlooked, but Bombos is the required medallion for Meyer, but without a hookshot, without boots, you can't actually do more than get in the first 5 feet of the dungeon, and obviously you can't finish it without Samaria, so that's not an option at the moment. It'll be interesting to see here what Mikan elects to do after going here to the right side of Desert Palace and not picking up a whole lot, if he chooses to go on and get the last item in the dungeon from Landmolus.
That is a good question. Now that Chrouya has picked up his bee in a bottle, he is on his way to figuring out where he's going to go next.
Yeah, this is a big decision here because, he might. It's probably likely he's going to clear out Village of Outcast and do the same route that Mikan did. In which case, he gets a couple of nice things like a mail upgrade. But aside from that, as far as we know, he doesn't have the luxury of knowing this. He's not really making any ingress in cutting into this lead that Mikan has, at least in terms of checking locations.
Right you are. There's not a whole lot being done right now that could catch up a significant amount of time between Chrouya and Mikan.
Still a lot of time, but he's got to start, for his own sake, checking different locations and maybe, striking gold.
Yeah, a play into Ice Palace right now would very much be a good idea. I'm not sure why Mikan is already opening up Misery Mire, considering how little places they can go into it. Unless they want to get that out of the way now?
Yeah, I think he just wants to open the dungeon. Perhaps he's going to go in and forget. He'll realize pretty quickly if, he gets in there and realizes that he doesn't have the boots or the hook shot.
Interesting.
Now, yeah,
there you go. And into the digging game we once again go. Luigi digging for one title that's going to actually get him some spotlight. Only turning up 50 rupees.
So Mikan making the play, going into desert to finish off Landmolus. Chrouya, meanwhile, we'll see if that digging game, sort of got his memory going, and he recalls that he has the shovel. Of course, he'll be really disappointed to see that it's not going to yield anything useful, but it will just be interesting to see if he does recall that.
I'm really interested to see and actually talk to Mikan about the gamble they're making right now. As you and I saw in the previous race, this was a good play to be made. But what can they really do besides Ice Palace and one chest in Skull Woods other than this? I'm pretty sure at this point, Mikan really doesn't want to go into Ice Palace, especially A, without boots, B, without the hammer.
Yeah, and the fighter sword and no fire rod. Really pretty limited as far as your offensive abilities in Ice Palace, as we see Mikan getting the Landmolus fight started and
Also,
nearly finished him off there.
Huge credit, not missing a single time with the ice rod. Not only more difficult, but a lot more painstaking to practice. Oh, and it's only 300 rupees, but it's time to see if the green pendant does pay off. Meanwhile, say goodbye to Frosty Luigi, and hello to, I don't remember what the pink Luigi was in the new Super Mario Brothers. Anyhow, oh wait, no, that's Smash Brothers. Those are Smash Brothers colors. My mistake. Nonetheless, Mikan looks like they are making the play towards Eastern Palace and Pod. Oh, wait, no, of course, they just got the green pendant. They're going to bank on Sarashla.
All right, the anticipation is mounting here as Mikan's going to go check out Sahasrahla, see what he's got for him. We think it might be good.
Oh, it's the fire rod!
That's pretty good.
That means Desert Palace confirmed for progression. That now turns this around considerably for Mikan. Wow, that is 2 in a row for the both of us. 4 required green pendant Sarashla plays. Right now, Ice Palace and Skull Woods are decently appetizing. Skull Woods definitely more than Ice Palace because you still need the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Chrouya is making the play, thinking of not going and fighting for that last item.
And it is interesting. So, of course, there's an item to collect for Mikan in Skull Woods, I believe. And, in all likelihood, since he's here, I reckon he'll probably go ahead and want to finish off Mothula. But, he's got to be wondering. Of course, they don't have the luxury of having the book for a convenient pedestal check. But having Desert done, and soon we suspect having Skull Woods done. And meanwhile, the other pin dungeon being explored by Chrouya right now, we could easily see a blind pedestal pull in the near future.
That's entirely possible, and we'll see if that pays off. We have seen blind pedestal pulls pay off in the past.
So we can begin to speculate, because of course it's always fun to imagine what could be on the pedestal.
Yep.
The bow could be on the pedestal. The cane of Samaria.
Could the bow be on pedestal? Double checking. Right now, it seems like you are correct. It does, actually, you're right. It does seem like the bow could be on pedestal. It seems like the hammer could not. Wait, right. Nope, the hammer could not. Cane of Samaria could be on pedestal. The boots could be on pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, whatever we need for Turtle Rock could be on pedestal when it comes to the pendant.
And I suspect the hook shot could be as well, although I don't quite understand the game's what it expects of you in terms of the logic here in Ice Palace.
That is a good question. However, I'm not sure if the hookshot could be, because the hookshot's required for Swamp Wood or Swamp Palace. Oh wait, no, Swamp Palace. I'm confusing Skullwoods and Swamp Palace. Skullwoods is a pendant dungeon. Swamp Palace is a crystal. This is a... Oh wow, actually, now putting that into perspective, this is a very interesting play for Mikan.
And he is pretty low on magic, not going to get a whole lot of fire rod shots in on Moth unless he decides to use that blue potion, which I suspect he might.
And going for that initial sword charge, pulling it off on Mothula. And so far, it appears Mikan's had a lot of practice when it comes to Mothula.
Yeah, this is a miserable fight. The good news is that he's got red mail. Of course, I think the spikes still do a single heart of damage regardless of the mail you have on.
You are correct.
He's running into some problems here.
It does fortunately mitigate the amount of damage you take from both Mothula when you accidentally give the bug a hug, as well as his circle laser. And just like that, Mothra goes down, or Mothula. For the big key, we now get to see what's in the big chest, and Red Pendant has been acquired. It definitely seems like we are on our way to a blind pedestal pull.
Could be the case. I did not see Chrouya cleared out all of Ice Palace that he could. I was too riveted by that Mothula scrap that Mikan found himself in. So he's going to go back and check for this, or beg your pardon, he's going to exit here.
Just to mirror something that was in chat, the book was not found, and Desert Palace was a pendant dungeon. So people are wondering if book can be on pedestal. At this point, with the logic, I do believe they account for the fact that you could access the desert dungeon with the flute, the mirror, and the gloves. So if you had all three of those, I do believe the logic would allow you to jump into desert, and that would make you then have that as a required palace. However, speaking of palaces, over in the Skullwoods area, we ended up just getting a heart container for the last item. A little painful and not as much worth it in comparison. At this point, it really does seem like Mikan is going to be heading towards Ice Palace. Or Swamp Palace?
Oh man!
What play is this? This is an interesting turn if he heads to Swamp. That's a gamble.
It's banking on the hammer being in the first chest that isn't the small key, and now he seems to be thinking better of it. Doesn't have the hammer; he can't even get into the portal.
That was my mistake. I also forgot about that. And he's not even going to the other side to head into Ice Palace, but instead going to get some potions from the witch.
Yeah, not a bad call here because of course he did expend his blue potion there, so he's going to stock up. And
I trade for the golden bee.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good trade, honestly. I don't know if I'd make that trade, but I think honestly Mikan just might be trying to take a few minutes to think.
Reasonably, I agree. That would sound like a good plan. Oh, and instead, back to the Ice Palace area we go. So it does look like no matter what, Mikan is going for a blind pedestal pull, so as long as he can find the the hammer, which at this point, we're not even sure if the hammer's actually there.
Yeah, I mean, he can't complete the palace without the hammer either because of the pegs that are directly in front of the hole, dropping you into cold stare.
Yep.
So we'll have to keep a pretty close eye here on Mikan. Chrouya obviously has been into Ice Palace, and I'm not entirely sure how much of the dungeon he cleared. I imagine he cleared as much as he possibly could, but I'm really racing here to think about where else they could go to get the hammer, and really the first chest in Swamp, the first, unique chest that's not the small key, could be the answer, and they'd have to, take a long hike to get there from the village of Outcasts.
That is true. I'm also wondering if Chrouya ended up finishing everything when it comes to Ice Palace, because it seemed rather quick for him to escape that area.
Mm-hmm. So we've got a little bit of the puzzle here pieced together. The map was right there in the first chest from Mikan, who's now trying to survive the Gauntlet of Penguins.
A Gauntlet of Penguins sounds like a really bad sequel to March of the Penguins. Side note aside, we're now going to see whether Mikan is going to just attempt to head all the way down to Vitreous and skip through the bomb jump, or nope, it seems like they're playing it safe so far. To be fair, without the hammer, that's still not a bad strategy whatsoever. Meanwhile, Swag ducking away right over to Misery Mire?
Probably going to go into Desert. I mean, Chrouya, I assume, knows that Ice Palace isn't going to help him, and he's, now been through a lot of the places that Mikan has, and I think he's realizing that he's got to go to Landmo.
That certainly seems to be the case.
The real problem is immediately after he, assuming he defeats Landmolus, cashes in that green pendant to Sasha, the Fire Rod's great to have in your back pocket. It's going to help him beat Skull Woods, but that's it as far as like what he's going to be able to do. He's going to hit another bump in the road there where he's going to have to kind of figure out what's next. And again, the wheels are turning here, and they're not turning very fast or very fluidly for me, but it really does seem like the first chest of Swamp has the hammer, or maybe the hook shot, maybe the bow.
Any of those would be absolutely fascinating.
I mean, it could even be the boots that gets them into, Bonk Rocks or something like that.
Yeah, or King's Tomb.
Mm-hmm.
So unless Chrouya checked all of the chests, which I don't remember seeing this extent of him searching through, we may be at a bit of a standstill until someone checks Swamp Palace. Mikan going and opening the switch now that they have the big key to check the big chest, and this will be a moment of truth. Meanwhile, Chrouya going and using bomb strats with a fighter sword.
Just decimating the floor of Desert Palace. No regard.
Oh, and here we're going to see a very uncommon Ice Palace bomb jump. Without the hook shot, he needs to be able to land this to get to the other side, and if he doesn't land this, he doesn't have a hook shot. Oh, and he gets it! And down he goes. And the big chest reveals the boots! That is huge. It also shows that Chrouya did not go through the rest of the Ice Palace. That could be a significant turnaround, because this also means Mikan not only has Bonk Rock access, not only has King's Tomb access, but technically has Misery Mire access.
Now, my question is that bomb jump considered like a part of the logic? I think all bomb jumps are considered part of the logic, correct?
Correct. In this case, both bomb jumps are not a logic skip, because in all technicality, all they're doing is checking as many of the chests as they can, because none of these chests require specific items that they don't already have to go to them, and it's just more of a shortcut than an actual logic skip.
Mm-hmm.
It's therefore accepted and allowed within the logic. Chrouya probably feeling a little bad about getting the fire rod this late in the game, after already skipping Lambo once, heads immediately to Kakariko.
All right. So is it in Bonk Rocks or is it in first chest of Swamp? Whoa.
That's not a good sign.
Hmm.
Oh, interesting. Skipping King's Tomb?
No, he went to King's Tomb.
Oh, I did miss that. Okay.
Fair point by chat here. With the boots, the logic will now allow you to access Mire. So Mire, they can actually enter it and explore in there with the 2 unique items in that dungeon.
Right you are.
And Mikan going to the Lumberjacks, he must have not checked the Lumberjack cave, so
Nope,
he's
went for
really
it blind
disappointed by
and
that.
went for it blind, and you could say that plan just blew up in his face. Bad puns aside, Mikan now fluting on away from that terrible pun into something that he feels misery for Misery Mire.
And of course, Mikan already having the luxury of being able to sail right in here. He already opened it.
Yep.
Ooh, still nearly got hit by the murder dactyl there, which would have, I think, taken 2 hearts with the red mail, maybe just 1.
I think it is 2 hearts. But nonetheless, Murder Dactyl is very rude. Ooh, having a little less luck with the disappearing Wizrobe room.
Yeah, this is a room you really want to go into with full health, having those sword beams. It's one of the few times that runners actually want to have sword beams.
Very true. Also, there are strats, including the boots and the fire rod, that could easily clear that room in 1 cycle. On a scale of difficulty, I'm going to say if they practice, they could do it. But oof, is that a little hard to get right for every shot?
And chat, quick to point out my oversight there. Of course, they couldn't even have sword beams with the fighter sword. Props to chat for being on top of that. Shame on me. As Chrouya moves on to his Mothula fight, he does have a blue potion in case things get a bit hairy, but
oh, and there's the hook shot.
Complement of magic, and yeah, the hook shot for Mikan, and oh man, that gives him access to East Death Mountain.
Yep, which could have another item. But nonetheless, this does mean that is one of the items out of the way. What else are we going to find? Will we find the Cane of Samaria? Will we immediately attempt to go to Swamp Palace? Will we find the hammer? Or are we going to have to double or triple dip into some dungeons? Oh, there's the big key. Literally anything could be in that chest at this very moment. The red pendant has been acquired. And while I'm not going to immediately say that the pedestal dream is dead, it is becoming less and less likely. Interesting. Mikan going up here and going into the big key area? For more magic, maybe? They don't have the Cane of Samaria. And they're about to find that one out the hard way.
Yeah, that's going to become pretty evident here in the next, I don't know, 3 seconds. Yeah, there we go. Oh, there it goes. Clicked right in his head as he got to the skull pot. Little premature. So Chrouya has defeated Moth, goes to the big chest, and is disappointed to see nothing but a health upgrade there. And now it's a matter of what is his next play. We know that he made a mistake by not clearing ice pallets to the fullest extent that he could and getting those boots. However, that first chest of swamp could still have something. It's highly unlikely now that Mikan has discovered the hook shot. So interestingly, the boots are required to get into Mire. You will not find the hook shots before you find the boots, and therefore
goes right back into Ice Palace.
And that is that's a dire play that he made. He had to make it.
It's unfortunate he didn't actually full clear it as best to his ability earlier, thinking he could just dip out of there halfway through, expecting not to find anything. Unfortunately, in version 26, the only place that you didn't have a required item was Skull Woods. Talk about a kick to the face of the confirmation bias there.
Oh wow, book for Mikan, and that raises some possibilities.
That is, oh, he immediately mirrors out, not even taking the risk of fighting Fighter Sword Vitreous. Are we going to see a pedestal check?
Yeah, having to forego that fight for now until he discovers the cane, which could be coming up here soon. Now making a pretty wise play to East Death Mountain, having the hook shot in hand, and just more than a dozen items I think are now accessible to him, and it'll be helpful too because he can get a peek and see what's required pendant-wise for Turtle Rock. Chrouya, as we noted moments ago, dipping back into Ice Palace, successful on that bomb jump attempt.
Ooh, almost escaping from that fire bar, but fortunately not falling down. And the first thing we get is a heart container and 50 rupees.
Yeah, a lot more to check, obviously, so we'll keep our hopes up for Mikan's sake.
Admittedly, the idea of Go Mode Swamp is very tempting, as even noticed in chat. We got another bee in a bottle. Is that our third bee in a... No, it's our second bee in a bottle.
A lot of bees and a lot of bottles in the seeds that I've observed today. Which is,
Vitorp make the seed?
Hey, it could be. That or the machine is learning the preferences of the viewers.
That could be possible.
Which, could be another explanation why we have these a seed such as this, which really, started out pretty well. I remember the Moon Pearl, the Flute, the Mirror, those were all pretty free. Whenever that happens, you feel pretty good, but then they've just hit a wall here recently until Mikan discovered the boots in Ice Palace, which we hope Chrouya is going to do soon.
Meanwhile, in the back of Spiral Cave, we get a heart container. Well, they do say running is healthy for you. Nonetheless, now we're going to see Mikan into the Dark World side of Eastern Death Mountain. Chrouya picking up another item. I don't believe it was much of value. I believe that was an upgrade in there. And in the big key, as soon as he gets in the big chest, as soon as he gets the big key, we're going to see him grab the boots. The question is, will he be able to pull off the bomb jump? Oop, he gets pretty close to lined up. Gets a little practice in. And nails it.
Nice poise there from Chrouya, obviously knowing that it's pretty imperative that he get this and not have to backtrack, so making a good play there.
And there's the boots. You have to be feeling that one. Meanwhile, Mikan opening up for Hookshot Cave and double-checking Turtle Rock, which requires Quake. Both the items required for each dungeon have been found. Or both medallions required, rather, sorry.
And so that means a sword upgrade, finally, for these guys. They've been, walking around Hyrule with the fighter sword for going on an hour now, and the hammer. Woo!
Suddenly, we are two items away from Go Mode.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. The bow and Cadence of Maria are the outstanding items at this time, and getting a sword upgrade obviously had to happen at some point. You just always assume it's going to happen, pretty easily. It took a while here.
You're right, it did. Meanwhile, Mikan going and checking The ether tablet.
Yeah, with the book. I kind of forgot about the book for a moment there, but it's going to give him another location to check here.
And after a short cutscene, we receive the mushroom. Oh, fetch quest number 2. Let's go.
Chrouya, meanwhile, has picked up the boots and as the proud new owner of the red boomerang, delightful item that may come in useful for one thing in the game.
And Mikan is heading into Spiral Cave, taking no chances after the rest of this seed, using hookshot strats to get a little further per heart. Almost decides to flute his way into death and then remembers, oh, I need to select the cape, getting down to half a heart before making it over, and is rewarded with a fire shield.
Yeah.
That's gotta sting just a little.
Yeah, but the security of checking the location and knowing that you can cross it off the list is worth it. Clearly,
absolutely.
Yeah, not a huge deal. It took an extra 15 seconds. So, you know, perhaps they later get the riot shield, and that comes in useful on the laser bridge. They don't have to burn magic trying to avoid the lasers.
That would become super useful. Oh, Mikan taking it and going and giving out the fetch quest item. Will he be rewarded? And oh, he's rewarded for a completely different reason. Behold the validation arrow.
And yet another golden bee set free.
I guess they were angry for the first bee that they released in the shop.
So Chrouya is making the correct play here, doing what Mikan did immediately after getting his boots, you know, checking the Bonk Rocks, King's Tomb, now going into Mire. Problem is he's just, you know, I mean, the remaining items and the remaining dungeons to do in the game are running lower, and his lead, or his deficit, I should say, seems to be growing larger. He's got to find some advantage as Mikan's going to make the play into Swamp, has the hammer, can now complete the dungeon.
And chances are this could be exactly where the bow lays. Unless we have to double dip immediately back into Ice Palace for the hammer. If Cold Stare happens to be holding an item, and it happens to be, or sorry, the bow, not the hammer, we have the hammer. But if it happens to be a required item, that would be specifically Super Troll.
So Chrouya picking up that hook shot, going to continue in Mire for as long as he can. We know that he will not be able to find the Cane of Samaria here, but should he continue, he'll find that book, which will open up a couple of more locations, specifically, you know, Ether and Bombos. And should it somehow still come down to it, you know, the bow and cane could both still be on the pedestal.
And suddenly, we can now be glad that neither runner went to the first chest in Swamp, because they would have grabbed Ether, and suddenly that would have become the next big mystery. Chrouya a couple of chests away before finally grabbing the book. Oh no, and he mirrors out. In fairness, we don't know if the book is actually required yet.
Yeah, the book may not be useful at all. In fact, avoiding the book might be for the best, because at this rate, it may only lead him, you know, to checking locations that aren't going to help him. So he's immediately going to Death Mountain, probably feeling behind, knowing that there's, you know, an enormous amount of locations that he can now check. So he's going to go check them. He's not going to put them off any longer. And it's obviously not going to make up a whole lot of time. But if the book doesn't lead to anything, then this is, you know, a good play, because it's going to help him cut into this deficit.
Meanwhile, fortunately, Mikan not making the mistake of flooding the key out of habit. when you're in that position, it's very easy for you to go into the habit of going over to the lever and pushing. But fortunately, habit did not break anybody today so far.
Yeah, sinking that key in Swamp would have been a big mistake, a huge time loss, and so that's obviously a big no-no.
Absolutely. And the worst part is, everyone is still absolutely fallible in this case. Anyone from new people to even Andy has recently, or at least relatively recently, flooded the key in the past. So it's not like you could say, oh, this person isn't this or that. No, it really still happens to everybody, depending on how much of a habit it becomes.
So Mikan now going to have a look at the west wing of Swamp at a couple of these items. Of course, runners hope always that they can just go mode Swamp, but that's not the case here with 2 items still missing from their go mode arsenal.
And left side proving not to have a whole lot. If I'm correct, did he just grab the last 2 dungeon items from each of those chests? But in the reverse order? That is some mirror mode vanilla type stuff. Nonetheless, Chrouya going to go through and get into Hookshot Cave to finally receive the sword upgrade. Ooh, the big key is missing, so that is the mistake I made. And once again, we have Mikan going up and tackling that statue, using the minor glitch in there to be able to grab the pot while pushing the statue on top, taking care of the jelly over in the Hookshot Cave. And the first thing he grabs is that Master Sword, as expected, only to further follow up with that being a big 20. We get the hammer finally. That must be a nice sigh of relief. And after that big 20 and falling out, Mikan goes and grabs not only the Master Key, but a piece of heart, and wisely goes to make sure to not leave any chest behind in the event that this has an item and not a dungeon item. Well, it can't be a dungeon item anymore, I believe. Oh, and going up the bug stairs once again. Fortunately, even using the bug stairs is still a much smaller time loss than finding out that the last item you need is actually in the big chest and having to come back in.
Yeah, this is an advisable play on his part to come back, and unfortunately just collecting the map.
Ooh. Very true. It's unfortunate that he collected the map. However, to paraphrase a YouTuber Northern Lion, what's so good about that? That's right. You don't have to worry about finding it on Argus.
Chrouya seems to be finished with his run on Death Mountain. Now the proud new owner of a hammer.
Ooh. Having that hammer is fantastic. Also, Swagnet confirmed. And Chrouya, right on the heels of Mikan's play, going into Swamp Palace, Swamp Castle, hello? And into Argus we go, using Master Sword tech. Of course, going to take a little more time, unfortunately, than using the Temper Sword or the Butter Sword, but still absolutely doable. One of the only things you need to keep in mind is when you're hookshotting from the bottom of the screen, you need to step aside, or you're going to immediately get hit and take damage from one of the puffballs. Meanwhile, Argus, the angriest scrubbing bubble on the planet, finally reaches up into the air, and we are now seeing Mikan take care of this in a vanilla Master Sword way without a Fire Rod usage for an attempt at a quick kill. Fortunately, there's still not much of a time difference between the two, and the result is a piece of heart. Oof.
Yeah, so Mikan finishing off Argus there, hoisting the crystal over his head at the minute 29 mark. on his counter. So it'll be interesting here to see in sort of time where Chrouya is when he finishes Argus, just to give us a better impression of where they are in terms of this lead that Mikan has.
This is going to be the interesting play. Mikan is heading towards Bombo's tablet. We are going to find out if the book is indeed required at this point.
Yeah, and it's precisely interesting as you noted, because Chrouya passing on the book in Mire, or at least didn't feel like he wanted to explore the rest of Mire. And right now, that looks like it might have been a good play, because Ether wasn't progression, Bombos isn't progression, and right now the only advantage the book offers to Mikan is knowledge of what might be on the pedestal, and he looks like he might be going to check that out.
That is certainly not a bad play at this case. Interesting how he went up this way instead, but I mean, to each their own. So, chat, I hope you have your pedestal hype ready, because you know what time it is. It is time to be able to hope to see if you're going to get exactly what you want. We've already had Ago 1, we have the chance of pedestal. Are we going to see these runners go through and bust their butts even further for your entertainment? Survey says, oh, it's just a bunch of money.
That is disappointing. So at least Mikan, though, again, having the security and the peace of mind, getting a little bit more intel, knowing that an item is not a certain location, still looks like he might be going back to Ice.
Interesting. Honestly, at this point, I would probably take Turtle Rock as the better gamble. You've already essentially full cleared everything but Cold Stare. At this point, you could say to yourself, you know, what if something's on the laser bridge? We've definitely seen that already today.
Yeah, but without the Cane of Samaria.
That is true. That is a good point.
And unfortunately, you can't substitute the Cane of Samaria with any number of your other red items. It's really a pretty mystical item that has a few very specific functions, and still it eludes us late in this seed. Again, I believe when I said it a couple of minutes ago, Mikan had just finished off Argus at a minute 29. Chrouya going to be entering Argus at a little shy of a minute 32. So maybe he decides to go with a more aggressive finishing strategy with the Fire Rod, can gain a few seconds here. Every second obviously is precious as they're coming down to the wire, still not in go mode.
Yeah, that is also a valid point, because without the Cane of Samaria, as you mentioned and alluded to earlier, they still can't even get anywhere else, and Ice Palace seems to be one of the only plays on this. They really want to go, and hopefully, nope, they've actually already checked everything else, and they can't get to the last two chests in Palace of Darkness, because they need the bow, so this literally is the last play that they can make.
A couple of things that are outstanding now that the hammer is with them. We have not checked the hammer pegs, and I'm unclear on whether or not there was another item in Thieves Town.
Wait a second, they couldn't check the chest in Thieves Town.
They couldn't earlier, but they can now.
You're right, and that's one of the only other things aside from Ice Palace that they can do. So it is entirely possible that they are doing this for naught in the event that they have one more item in Thieves Town.
And also the hammer pegs nearby in the village of Outcast, and our tracker Blastegg informing us that he believes that it's the map in the big chest, and I'm gonna submit to his expertise on this. Obviously, doing an excellent job tracking, so he does not suspect that there's another item in Thieves. But again, the hammer could lead to an item through the hammer pegs.
Oh, that is true. We still also haven't seen the hammer pegs. That is also a very good point. And of course, shoutouts to Terror for being obviously the track bot. Oh wait, no, Terror? Am I getting that right? No, that was another stream. Shoutouts to Blastegg. My mistake. I apologize, Blastegg, for being the boss tracker that they are.
Absolutely. So Chrouya, as chat noted, and I overlooked, did not continue with the more full clear of swamp hoping for, one of the progression items to be on Argus. So he's going back to do that now. So this race is not as close as it looked a couple of minutes ago. Still, with items outstanding, not accessible. There's still some
can
plays
become
for
a
Chrouya to
mystery.
make.
Absolutely. And if he ends up making a play that's different that Mikan made that was a little more time costly, that could end up making that lead that Mikan has and shrinking it down significantly.
However, Mikan did just pick up the cane in Ice Palace.
Wow, I totally just missed that one. Welp. I guess you could say it is safe to say that we're not in go mode, but that does mean Mikan is in bow mode.
Yeah, the one item remaining for him to go into go mode. And that means that he's probably headed to Turtle Rock.
Turtle Rock or to Vitreous.
Now, we'll see what Chrouya does here. If the bow is at the Hammer Pigs in Kakariko,
that would be huge.
That would be a pretty big advantage.
Actually, correction, that would only slightly be huge in the condition that Mikan doesn't immediately go there after Ice Palace. Because the difference between those two right now is literally from the moment that Chrouya goes there to as soon as Cold Stare ends up dying. And right now, it's just bombs. Yeah, so this could literally come down to how quickly can both of our runners check a certain area that one of them is already currently clearing.
All right, well, we'll see here in a second. All the speculation could be for naught if the bow isn't in here.
And it's not. Okay, so that does mean Vitreous is still an option. Ooh, speaking of, it looks like Mikan is immediately heading over there while Chrouya goes up to Turtle Rock. Okay, so we are about to find out, regardless of where it is, which area is going to hold what. On the right side. Oh, go ahead.
Chrouya's going to go check the ether. Well, he can't even do that because he doesn't have the book. He still does not have his Cane of Samaria, I think he may have not checked Spike Cave yet.
That's a good point. I keep thinking both runners have the... I kept thinking both runners had the Cane of Samaria for some reason. So this is going to be interesting. Right now, at this point, unless for some reason there was something that we had missed that Chrouya is going to pick up that we didn't, this is coming down to look like it is Mikan's game to lose.
Yeah, Mikan, a little interesting here to go to Meyer because, of course, it's a crystal. He's got to finish it, but it isn't a pyramid crystal, and he's discovered both of the dungeon item or both of the unique items already, having picked up the hookshot and the book. So really, he's just tying up loose ends here, and it seems like, honestly, the obvious play as far as finishing off a dungeon, it would be to go to T-Rock, and also a dungeon, I should say, that has a lot of things to check.
Right you are, and that would make a lot of sense. Meanwhile, Chrouya triple dipping into Ice Palace. That has to sting. We may, at the interview, have to ask him about that.
Yeah, it's a tough proposition. I'm sure, he's not going to be pleased about it in retrospect. But the good news is that he's on the right track, and perhaps he takes his cane once he picks it up and makes an immediate play on Turtle Rock. He's running out of ways to make up time here, short of Mikan, taking a death or something like that. But he's on the right track, and that's good news at this point.
That is very true. Since this would be his third time in here, he may not even take the chance of Vitreous having an item, or sorry, of Coldstare having an item, which we know is the right chance to take. That would save him approximately 1 minute and 15 seconds at that point, which would be a significant jump forward in the amount of time between the two.
So Mikan doing battle with Vitreous here in a really a way that most people obviously would not prefer. Cape strats along with Master Sword spin attacks. Taking a lightning strike there, of course, has the potion, gonna use it. Wise choice.
Without a doubt. And not even wasting the magic on the cape, says, let's go, let's fight Vitreous. And we are seeing, oh no, oh we are seeing hammer strats on Vitreous. That is something not as commonly seen, but nonetheless always entertaining.
Yeah, Vitreous can be one of the more imposing, downright scary boss fights earlier in a seed. If you've got, say, like Fighter Sword, no bow, you've got the hammer and green mail, limited health. That's one that a lot of people really don't relish having to do. But there he's got the red mail and plenty of hearts, so a difficult fight, but he handled it pretty well with his safety potion.
Yes, he did indeed. To make a side note, Mikan definitely made those hammer strats look easy. That is not exactly the easiest thing to pull off against a giant sphere.
And so Mikan, already well acquainted with the witches so far in this seed, I think making his third trip back there. Going to go ahead and leave their gift to him, that validation arrow, alongside. And looks like he's going to make the play up to Turtle Rock, which is obviously the best play to make at this point with just the sheer number of items in that dungeon. And
Absolutely.
Also the fact that he's exhausted pretty much, I mean, most every location in the overworld. And I doubt he wants to go see if Bo is in one of the first few chests of Pod. I know Chrouya spent some time in Pod. I don't recall how much time Mikan spent there, if any at all.
I think the only things that Chrouya didn't pick up on in Pod were in the Dark Maze.
So as you saw there a moment ago, Chrouya now has the Cane of Samaria. That's a good thing. It's going to lead him in the right direction. But Mikan is closing in on Gomo, just needing the bow.
And at this point, he's heading down to Turtle Rock, and getting bodied by a dead rock in the process. Chrouya deciding to not take the chance and double check to make sure Vitreous doesn't have the bow. Learning from the mistake of making the triple dip and not wanting to go for the quad dip into Ice Palace.
Chrouya, meanwhile, punishing Cold Stare with as many Fire Rod blasts as he could muster. Now he's going back to the Master Sword. 2 puffs down, 1 to go. He's got it cornered, and that should do it right there.
Yep, Cold Stare goes down, aka the boss I keep mistaking for Vitreous and vice versa for no apparent reason. And the blue pendant has been acquired.
And notably, Chrouya, as we know, did not bother to explore Mire as thoroughly as Mikan. Missed out on the book. He's got all 3 pendants. I think we're going to see a blind pedestal pull here.
Oh my goodness, if we do. And there's the bow!
Oh.
Within the first 3 chests of Turtle Rock.
So Mikan has entered Go mode.
Confirmed. Wow, that is... Whew. This seed. The one bright side is that Mikan has a chance of not having to enter Laser Bridge. Now, mind you, that is still a possibility. But if he ends up getting enough keys, he won't have to worry about it. Oh, we're seeing an effective dodge of the Chomps in the cameo room. Grabbing the key, immediately heading downstairs. It is safe to say that this is Mikan's race to lose at this point.
Yeah, certainly would take some mistakes on his part for Chrouya to creep back into this race. Chrouya making the interesting call here. I was almost convinced that he would make a play for the blind pedestal pull, having collected all 3 pendants, but instead he's going to go into Mire, and looks like he's just going straight to Vitreous, not even concerned with checking chest over there on the left side where the book is.
To be fair, he's probably thinking to himself, you know, what if Vitreous has the bow? That would only make sense. It would not surprise me if he went back in, or if he went in a panic immediately to Turtle Rock, which, as we know, would be the play.
And we'll see how out of the way Mikan goes checking chests throughout Turtle Rock here. He does have silver arrows to go with his new bow, but the Master Sword leaves something to be desired a little bit, but I really don't think he's going to check any chest that doesn't immediately fall in front of him.
That would make a lot of sense. And let's face it, taking the time out when you already think that you're behind to go into something like Mimic Cave, probably not the most ideal of situations in your head, and you'll risk going through with Master Sword Ganon than being a couple seconds behind because you decide to make an extra check somewhere. That said, it's entirely possible that the sword upgrades are still in Ganon's tower.
Meanwhile, Chrouya is dangerously low on health, running out of magic on Vitreous, and he's down to 1 heart. He does have a blue potion. Okay.
Now that is close.
Yeah, that's as close as it gets, more or less. Alright, and so Mikan gonna have to make a play for a key here on Laser Bridge.
So what's for the dream there? Fortunately, it seems like he's well familiar with the pixel he needs to be able to just dash right in. Oh, it gets the key the second time.
Alright, he's got his key, and he's gonna continue to check these chests.
Oh, okay. He's probably looking for a sword upgrade, so Trinex isn't as much of an issue. That is understandable. And it turns up to not be much, but he does get full health in return. Not a bad trade. I appreciate that moment of using the magic cape to avoid the mini Helmasaur.
Yeah,
it was a little extra, but I definitely appreciated it.
Yeah, there's a very nice maneuver there. Whereas Chrouya finished off Vitreous, but knows that he left an item behind. Was really hoping that an item would be on Vitreous, but it's not the case. And knowing that he still needs that bow, he's going to go back inside. And unfortunately, he's going to find the book, which I wonder at that point if that's going to guide him to the pedestal. All right,
yeah.
Now, conservation of magic is very important here, except, I believe, yeah, he's got more blue potions, so he can afford to miss a shot.
Right you are. However, he also didn't end up menuing out in time to be able to get to the fire rod to prevent getting lag all over the floor.
So we move on to the final phase of Trinex here, spin, attack, and slash strats from Mikan. Chrouya is now got himself some literature, some reading material, and he's going right to Kakariko, likely going north for a pedestal check, only to be disappointed. And then I presume after that himself going up to T-Rock, which Mikan has just cleared, and he's got Eastern and Pod, and then he'll be on his way up to Ganon's Tower.
We are getting very close to the guessing game time. Don't start it yet because we got one more dungeon to go. And importantly, we may be seeing we're seeing a pedestal check, but we also might see a pedestal pull for the meme. Nope, no memery today. Oh, he debated it though. He debated it, and I respect that debate.
Yeah, he felt a little obligated. I think he knew that he should have just gone and pulled it, but either way, can't blame him. He's in a race. He feels behind, so water under the bridge. Now, I saw a question in chat, somebody asking if these runners have a chance to advance to the race this weekend to determine the final 6 players that will be placed into the group stage. The answer to that is that Mikan has a chance, whereas Chrouya does not.
Right, you are. So, in the event that we end up seeing Mikan for some reason lose, that will definitely put Mikan in one place. And regardless of the situation, that does put Chrouya more or less not in that same situation. However, they did want to do this, I believe, to finish off the entire section of that stage. And I believe one of the players actually had a bye in the tournament already.
Yeah, Mikan had a bye, and they determined that because it would be unfair to, not even give him a chance to win a match, that they counted the bye as a victory. And so I believe that what they decided to do is, in the event that he were to win, it would be an extra participant. I think originally there were going to be 32, and I think now it would be 33, but I can't be entirely sure on that. Either way, that's a good time for us to remind you all that there will be a large playoff race this Saturday taking place at 3 p.m. Eastern Time.
And that's off between 32, possibly 33, but most likely at this point 32 people. That is going to be not only massive, but one heck of a thing you're going to watch. And if you want to make sure to see more Randomizer goodness, you want to make sure not only to follow the Speed Gaming and Randomizer Mania channels, you definitely want to make sure to follow your favorite runners. So if you haven't already, make sure that for more of the Randomizer or even speedrun goodness, to check out Mikan or Chrouya. And since we're showing a little bit of love, let's make sure to give some love to our tracker Fiesel, as well as our tracker, hello? Our restreamer Fiesel, as well as our tracker Blastag. And by all means, gotta make sure to mention, between Doob Duberson and I, Glentie, we sure as heck enjoy a little bit of love and enjoy being able to share the love with all of you.
And Chrouya closing in and retrieving his bow. He's now in go mode, though it might be a bit too late, as Mikan is now making his way through the Palace of Darkness.
And at this point, once again, it is all but a bit of time until we finally see them clear through these dungeons. To correct myself earlier, yes, Blastag is indeed the only tracker. The restreamer is Fiesel. I'm just bad at English today. And another big 20. Mikan going and clearing most of these chests, looking primarily for the big key, not unfortunately knowing that it is in the right side. Oh, or it's in the right side down here, and I'm thinking of the previous race. Got it. Nailed it. Anyway, off Mikan goes to finish off King Helmasaur. Meanwhile, Chrouya is going and getting the key, getting hit by the bunny beam, showing the excellent sprite work by whoever made that sprite, which, by the way, make sure if you ever find out who made any of these sprites to give them plenty of credit, because these are some excellent jobs for custom work on one of our favorite randomized games.
Yeah, a lot of good sprites to choose from there. And Luigi's a fan favorite for sure.
Luigi is an excellent resprite. Just looking at the clearness of the animation as well as the detail, it's very nice. And credit where it's due, it's also a different art style completely from Link to the Past.
And we wait for the lengthy break there, opening up the basement to pod on the way to Helmasaur.
I still believe you could play the entire sequence to the final Jeopardy jingle before that opens, but I've yet to figure it out on my own. Needless to say, into clearly the best of rooms in Palace of Darkness, and that is the Turtle Room. Now, one thing about this room has blown my mind ever since discovering about it. This is the only room that has turtles, but right now Chrouya is in a place called Turtle Rock. Hello?
Yeah, huge oversight there by the original devs of the game. Unforgivable.
I mean, is it semantics? Sure. Is it still enough to make people go, wait a minute, that's really weird? Absolutely. Meanwhile, Chrouya going down and making sure to go through the laser bridge. Make sure to equip that cape and gets the big 20, falls, dashes over, almost falls again, gets hit by the laser, but picks up the key and says, you know what, good enough? Just kidding, going on to number 3, getting another big 20, and in the last chest, oh, will he even go for it now that he's been bodied? Yes, he is going for it. Meanwhile, go ahead.
Looks like he's trying to make use of those iframes, especially on the second chest after he got knocked off. Looked like he thought if he dashed, he'd have enough time for those iframes to linger and get to the second chest. It was not the case. He's having a tough time here, but he does have a health with the blue goo, I believe, so he should be fine.
So long as he doesn't make a mistake over here, because he did not open up the safety entrance, if you will, in the event that you do fall to to Trinex. Speaking of King Helmasaur, though, that I almost mentioned, it seems like Mikan made very quick work after making sure to get those hammer hits off and then throwing a silver arrow directly into the middle of the gem. Now,
Chrouya may have a blue goo still. I think he does. And he might be waiting to use it until he spends a lot of his magic here to take out one of the heads. Using the hammer strats down to a heart and a half, going to go ahead and unleash a bee before he uses the blue potion.
Oh my god, releasing the bee. Yes, justification has been found. Although Chrouya does have to be careful, even with the lag on the floor, that does also harm him in the event that he wants to try to, use a hammer strat. It does push him back right into those spikes, and that does cause a significant amount of damage.
Look at that bee go. That is delightful. Get him!
Yeah. The bee, also known as the Pitbull stereotype of the Link to the Past community.
He is a relentless little bee. If only he could do damage to anything but Moth. And I'm not even convinced he actually does do damage to Moth, aside from, knocking him back.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't really do much damage to Moth, if anything. Maybe Fighter Sword equivalent at best. But more importantly, he does knock them around. The other boss he does affect, actually, believe it or not, is blind. Although he doesn't take any damage, it does make sure to knock the heads around to prevent it from being in the usual pattern, which gives you a little more time to avoid the shots. Meanwhile, Mikan, in that entire discussion, makes super quick work of not only the Eastern Palace, but the Armos Knights, which means it is just about time for us to start playing our little game in the Randomizer community. We have this little game that we play that we have 1 to 22 chests that are in the first section of Ganon's Tower before you find the big key. In there, feel free to guess how many chests are going to be opened beforehand. If you end up guessing correctly and are the first to guess correctly, you will also be put onto our leaderboard. However, you have to either have been subscribed or donated, tipped $2.50 or 250 bits to the Speed Gaming channel. That said, if you put in a location name but not a number, it will not count. Feel free to guess your numbers. That said, if you guess a number and then specify later, it won't count towards the guessing game, but we will at least give you credit.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you can't guess a location because you see in chat so many people want to guess Bob, and Bob could be, typically Bob will be either 18 or 14, I believe. It all depends on whether or not they check the 4 chests on the right side behind the Samaria and Fire Rod location.
And we're getting one question for clarification's sake. Does that count for any Speed Gaming channel? I want to say yes, but I can't confirm off the top of my head.
I believe the answer is yes, but I would say to be safe, maybe just the original Speed Gaming, but I think, don't take my word for it, but I think it's any Speed Gaming channel.
Indeed, that's what I also think. But in the event that something is not set up properly or we are wrong, that would be really awkward.
Yeah. I'm glad that I could provide you no clarity at all.
Hey, by all means, I'm glad I could follow suit and provide the same to our community.
Always lending a helping hand.
Unless they're tied behind our backs. Oh, Fiesel confirms that is for any channel. And I didn't hit stop. Oops. There we go. Well, fortunately, it wasn't in the first two. And Rip Bob, there goes the third one.
So Mikan electing not to go to the 4 chest on the right. He's going to continue on with a, I guess, more traditional path through the straight left side.
Right you are, unless he decides to mirror back and head to the right after these 4 chests.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be 4, 5, 6, and 7. 6 has magic powder, interesting. 7 has another small key, and judging by these slashes, we are going to see a left side trek instead of a Dark Magician strat. Meanwhile, people are hoping for the big key at Batcave. I don't know if that's how that works, but I do appreciate the joke. Ooh, and number 8 has bombs.
Yeah, that's chest number 8. Meanwhile, Chrouya, sorry to just give a brief update on him, as we see struggling a little bit with the turtle room in the Palace of Darkness, but he's past that, on his way to Helmasaur.
And not a problem, of course, having updates on Chrouya is also important. Mikan using hookshot strats to avoid the fire bar instead of a dash. Number 9 provides a heart piece, and onto the rando room we go.
So we have chest 10 through 13 coming up, is that right?
That is correct.
All right.
And 50. Kane O'Brien and 11, 12 with rupees, and 13 with a heart piece. Looks like we're getting a repeat of Bob's chest going on.
Yeah, Bob's chest is next on the docket, unless Mikan decides to take some really unorthodox routing choice here.
Mikan dropping several bombs out of frustration. To be fair, I understand completely. This seed has been rude. This has been beyond rude. It has been downright disrespectful to our runners.
All right, Bob, what do you got? You're up.
Oh, that's right. Bob's not here. It's a normal anti-fairy. Rip Bob.
Yeah, Bob is... he's gone.
Oh, and Bob's chest doesn't even have anything more than a piece of heart. To the Armos Knights we go.
And before the end of this Armos fight, for any new viewers out there, Bob is a affectionately named glitch in the game where if you bonk the torch...
Oh,
there's
hello,
the big
number
key.
15. Number 15 ends up being the key. I think this is the following command for it. I'm gonna give it a second until we get there. People are asking if this was a pedestal seed. No, it was not. Just so happens that every area they went to did have chests or items that were progressive, and they just finished it anyways. So I think this has been Boosh. Nope, it's not guess. Oops, big key.
Well
Or
done.
I'm just wrong. Oh, it's no caps. Thank you, Rick. The closest guess from a Subber supporter was 9 from Silk Soldier. By Price is Right rules. Congratulations, Silk Soldier. Because 9 is still less than 15.
So Mikan beginning his plunge into the gauntlet. Chrouya has meanwhile eliminated Armos in Eastern Palace, and that means he's on his way up to Ganon's tower.
Right, you are.
Unfortunately, quite a ways behind Mikan.
That is very true. Even a right side gamble straight to Armos wouldn't really catch him up too much at this point. By the time he would do that, he would already be grabbing that and starting the top of the tower as Aga 2 is being defeated.
Meanwhile, Mikan has no interest in utilizing the freshly found powder to get a fairy from before entering Landmolus.
Not a bad strategy, however, that does mean they were slightly out of sync. Fortunately for Mikan, that really wasn't that much of a problem to begin with. And immediately heading up towards the next room,
So as we come down the final stretch here, begin to kind of reflect on the seed a little bit. Also, let's not forget to mention the implications. Not getting too far ahead of ourselves, but if Mikan were to win, then that would secure his spot in the upcoming race coming up this Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, in which, close to 36 racers, I think, and runners are going to be competing for 6 spots to advance to the group stage. So Mikan has punched the ticket there, it would seem. Let's, again, not get too far ahead of ourselves. Don't want to curse a runner.
Oh, that moment where your door knocks out of nowhere. Sorry about that. Meanwhile, Mikan clearly just skipping over those 2 chests and heading on in towards Trolldorm 2. Will Trolldorm troll harder or with a vengeance?
Or will he troll not at all?
That is a good question. Chances are he won't troll that hard to begin with.
Yeah. The Master Sword does make it a little bit more interesting, but also the more compressed platform that they're on here. But Mikan electing to go with the hammer, needs 1 more hit and gets it with ease. So Moldorm is no problem this time.
And will we see an opening of the validation chest? And validated we are. It is just a piece of heart, though.
That was likely less to please chat and more, a last-ditch effort for Tempered Sword.
Always worth the venture.
So that will make Ganon a little bit more difficult, but first, Mikan's got to get through Aghanim 2. Pretty favorable pattern here, narrowly misses that triple. Picking up a double there despite the blue balls.
I do miss a time where we didn't have to worry about those in V20, or no, sorry, V24, V23. Either way, despite the reminiscence, Aga 2 goes down and Mikan plays the hook shot to the beat.
And in the interim, we get a replay of the sequence of chests here in GT. These are chests 10 through 13. We know that the winning chest, I believe, was chest 15.
That is
behind
correct.
Ice. And Mikan is about to drop down into Ganon. Master Sword, but he does have the silver arrows in tow.
And after that Pink Floyd reference, on we head towards Mikan, or towards the Ganon fight. Currently at three spin slashes, not splashes. We're not underwater. Trying to play it safe to prevent giving a hug to Ganon, managing to get a good time or a good placement to be able to get a double slash, getting that 2-for-1 combo. Oh, managing to barely miss that one. Meanwhile, Chrouya heads down towards the Armos Knights in the ice room. And Mikan is on to phase 2.
And now he's got Ganon in a really favorable spot here. Elects to use the cape and just go to town, getting off these double spin hits here. Takes a bit of a shot from the fire bat on the way out, but might be able to finish off phase 2 here. May take one more go around. And he is into phase 3. Granted, he's got limited health, but he does still have that blue potion. Going to go ahead and make use of it.
A very wise decision, no less, especially when you have a bigger risk of giving Ganon a hug. Oh, managing to get that sword spin off in time before the next fire bat attack ended up happening. Getting some otherwise decent RNG for placement when it comes to Ganon. Not even getting trolled too hard by the teleportation. Asking if they found the arrows on the light world, and he's going to get a rude surprise when he ends up getting one straight to the... Well, I don't know what part of him that's supposed to be, but I don't think I could say that on a public stream.
Ooh, missing an arrow shot there. I mean, he's got plenty of time and able to, execute the torch glitch.
Absolutely.
Could be a double right here.
Oh, without a question. Oh, almost getting the triple. Oh, taking a little too much time to be able to get that final shot off.
And looks like he should have it here. Ganon. Oh.
We must have miscounted. I thought he ended up getting more than one. Maybe the second one for some reason didn't count? That would make no sense.
Well, I suspect this will be it. And it is. He fires another one just for good measure. And that'll do it. Ganon eliminated. Mikan hoisting the sword and prepared to dot done as Chrouya is still in the gauntlet.
And Mikan is officially finished in first place with an official SRL time of 2 hours, 13 minutes, and 5 seconds. Make sure to throw all those GGs in chat as we get ready, because soon we're going to have Mikan in for a post-race interview.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Yeah, in fact, I think he just joined us.
Speaking of which, he did. I forgot he has that ability. GG
Mikan.
indeed.
Thank you. I hope no one saw that Ganon fight.
What Ganon fight? Cough.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I actually decided I covered my eyes. It's to make it more interesting, but it sounds like he got the job done. So GG. A long seed, a lot of difficulty after a pretty hot start, picking up the flute, the mirror, and then it was just a long time before you were able to find that hammer. Finally,
It was a lot of double dipping. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was a significant amount of double tipping. Unfortunately for Chrouya, that was more than just double dipping. Poor Chrouya ended up going into Ice Palace and doing a quad dip.
Oh gosh, did he not get the boots the first time, or what?
Nope,
happened?
he went through, decided to not take the risk, go somewhere else, got stuck, went there, got the boots, went somewhere else, got back there. Oh, sorry, a triple dip. And after getting the cane, decided to finish Cold Stare just in case.
Okay, yeah, I did that too because the bow was still out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that Fire Rod ended up actually being useful because I had Bombos already, so I had Ice Palace access, and I didn't really use the Fire Rod for anything, or it didn't need to be used for anything except finding the bow. So I'm glad that didn't turn out to be a waste of time to get that from the green pendant.
Oh yeah, that's an
Very
interesting
fortunate.
point. That the fire rod was a bit of a red herring because you got that from Sahasrahla. You went to finish off Moth, or you finished off Moth. Beg your pardon. Went to Sasha, got the fire rod. Wait, the desert was the green pendant. Beg your pardon. Went to do Skull Woods, and then after that, I'm trying to recall what the next item for progression was after that. Was that when you got the boots?
That sounds right. Yeah, because I didn't go to Ice Palace before I had the Fire Rod, which,
Right.
well, I mean, was fine, I suppose, but meh.
And then, of course, it's kind of a trolly thing to have the boots get you access into Mire, and then the hookshot is in Mire. So the boots were required to get into Mire, which I'm sure is the case every now and then. But the fact that the hookshot was in Mire, if you were at all looking for that hookshot before you went into Mire, you would have been out of luck for a while.
Yeah, and then you had to use it to get the Samaria over in Ice Palace so you could finish Mire. Thanks, video game. That was fun.
I'd like to pass on this terminology to anyone else. I would like to certifiably call this seed a clown fiesta.
Okay. Yeah, that's... it did feel like something that would be called that, yeah.
Right? It's also a great way of using that word instead of using it for something that would not be allowed on a public and family-friendly stream.
Yeah, so it was a lengthy seed, required a lot of double dipping, and at a certain point there, I mean, exhausting almost every location. Of course, Aga required, and, you know, I forget, I'm trying to recall who it was who, gosh, I'm trying to recall where the progression item was. Catfish didn't have it.
Catfish in the mitts.
Oh, that's right, Catfish did have it. Thanks
Yeah,
for
that was-
recalling that.
That was something else and then some. Chrouya went to Pod first, and you went to Catfish first, and that was when we started to see a significant turn in the race.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
did he dipped into Pod and then had somewhere else to go?
Nope, he just decided to go into Pod first, and then went to Pyramid, and then went to Catfish.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it appeared for a little bit like he really, in fact, was avoiding Catfish almost because he dipped into Pod, and then actually, instead of saving and quitting to the Pyramid, he then tried to walk back and died along the way, and then actually went to the Light World briefly before coming back, checking Catfish out. And by that time, you built a bit of a lead, and it just seemed to grow incrementally from that point on. But yeah, there were several, bottlenecks in the seed. Of course, the mitts were one, and then the boots, hammer, cane, and bow. All these really crucial items that have so many things behind them. Just one by one gave you a hard time.
Yeah, when you don't have the hammer and the hookshot, or the hookshot, I suppose, you run out of places pretty quickly, especially with the hammer. And that whole east section of Death Mountain was closed off for a really long time.
That was, to say the least, that was an adventure. That was an adventure for all of us.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, and all the seeds you've raced in this tournament, I guess not on a scale of 1 to 10, but I'm guessing this one ranks probably at the bottom in terms of the enjoyment of the seed.
It was okay. I had a pretty good plan about where to go next, or at least I had like a path lined out. There was a lot of places that we had access to at the start, like right after finding the myths, I suppose. But I've had worse. Don't worry, this one just took a while.
So that improves your record. It's my understanding that that actually is going to grant you a spot in the race this Saturday. That's accurate, yeah?
Yeah, so what happened was, in one of the rounds, I had a bye, so I just kind of got pushed to the next round without doing a match, and Chrouya actually said that I think he was offering not to race me because he was already out, and he had offered not to race me because all he would be doing is giving me a potential not to make it into the tiebreaker. And I said, well, if that happens, then I would be accessing the tiebreaker match with only one win, and I didn't really want that because it feels kind of cheaty, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But so I kind of made him race me, so just to see how it would turn out, and I'm glad. I guess it kind of turned out this way.
Yeah, well, you earned it with the seed, and again, congratulations on that. So I'm sure you're looking forward to the opportunity to get into the group stage as we see Chrouya finishing off Ganon. An official time going to be somewhere around 2 hours and 20 minutes.
2 hours, 20 minutes, and 3 seconds to be exact. We are running a little low on time. We have literally 4 minutes before the next race starts. So what we are going to do is, if he is so interested, we're going to do a very quick interview with Chrouya. Speaking of which, there he is, Chrouya. GG. Congratulations.
Congratulations on getting every single item.
Basically, you survived is what I'm getting at, yes.
No, I didn't. I died twice in stupid locations.
Oh, I mean, that is fair. I did really mean that you got through the seed more than anything.
That's a good way
very,
to...
it was a very trolly seed.
Good way to end my series.
Yeah, thank you so much for actually like racing me. I don't know if you were kind of not.
Oh no,
not
I mean I was
interested or-
playing. I'm just playing my own pace. I mean the same pace as a normal tourney match.
Right.
Except like I made decisions and I backed a little early out of ice, and I died on my way trying to get the mid. So those are 2 points where I could have saved probably enough time to make it closer. But oh well.
Yeah, a difficult seed to try and navigate. Again, you and Mikan were united in your difficulty in finding that progression item. Eventually going to Aghanim, knowing there's got to be something somewhere in the Dark World, and eventually you made the play, going up to Catfish, but Mikan made the play a little bit sooner, and the lead just seemed to grow incrementally from there.
I mean, yeah, I died on the way trying to get to Catfish with my boomerang in hand. I was like tempted to go Catfish before going into Pod, which I now regret, but hey, decision making is tough.
Yeah,
It does
definitely
happen to the best of us.
Yeah, I definitely almost died there too, trying to do boomerang things on those stupid jumping bush guys. I think I had 2 or 3 hearts left by the time I got to Catfish.
No, I should have just death warped out of Pod because I left with like 1 heart, and well, I didn't manage. I also died in Thieves Town. And then like leaving that chest upstairs. Ugh, such time waste.
That hurts. That hurts. But
I really wanted to grab that pedestal when I saw it.
we saw that and got a lot of respect for that. I don't mean to cut you short because I wish I could keep talking about this for a while, but we are literally about to be cut off. So I'm going to say good game to both of you. Congrats, Mikan, and GG as well to you, Chrouya.
Yeah, GG.
Yeah, good game, guys. Thank you.
Good luck in the wild card.
Yeah, thank you very much, GG.
Good luck indeed. And if you've enjoyed what you've seen, make sure for more excellent randomizer and speedrunning goodness to go and check out our runners, as well as all of these speedrunning or speed gaming channels, as well as the Randomizer Mania channels. However, we are literally about to run out of time in about 12 seconds. So hi, I'm Glenty.
And I'm Doob Duberson. Thanks, guys.
And we'll see you soon. There should be another race coming up right now, so we will see you in chat.